Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today into, well, a really unlikely story. The journey of a shoe that, let's just say, made a very distinctive first impression.
Right. Distinctive is one word for it. Polarizing might be another.
Exactly. We are talking about Crocs, a brand that somehow went from being, widely ridiculed to, get this, a $10 billion global powerhouse.
10 billion.
Yeah.
It's staggering when you think about where they started. Remember those early descriptions?
Oh, I do. So ugly they could make onions cry. That one always stuck with me. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It really does. But sometimes, things that get that kind of strong, visceral reaction, they're the ones that actually shake things up.
That's a great point. If everyone loves something right away, maybe it's not really pushing any boundaries.
Precisely. The fact that Crocs were so divisive right from the start, that really set the stage for everything that followed.
So let's set the scene. It's 2002. You've got the Caribbean sun, a sailing trip, three friends, Scott Siemens, Lyndon Duke Hansen, and George Bodecker Jr.
And crucially, none of them were shoe designers. Not a single one.
Right. Just some guys who basically stumbled onto an idea for this very, very unusual shoe. No fancy design labs here.
No, it sounds like it was born out of, well, pure practicality. They were on a boat, they saw a need.
And they found this material, right? Crosslight.
Ah, yes, Crosslight. That's really the secret sauce, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This patented EVA foam, ethylene vinyl acetate from a Canadian company, Foam Creations.
And it wasn't just any foam. It was super lightweight, totally waterproof.
I'm incredibly comfortable underfoot.
Yeah.
That was the key thing.
Yeah.
People put them on, and even if they thought they looked strange.
They felt good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The comfort factor was undeniable.
So they make their first model, the Beach, this sort of chunky clog.
Yep, the original.
They take it to a boat show in Fort Lauderdale later that year, 2002. They've got 200 pairs sold
Sure.
out, every single pair.
Wow. Okay, so right away, even with that, let's call it unconventional look.
With the holes on top, the clunky shape, people compared it to, what was it? A cartoon shoe meets a cheese grater?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But clearly, the function, the sheer usefulness, it just clicked with that boating crowd immediately.
It really shows how function can trump form, at least initially. The early adopters, they needed specific things.
Right. Boaters needed the grip, like you said. Gardeners.
Yeah.
Easy to hose off.
And think about healthcare workers, chefs, anyone on their feet all day. That comfort was revolutionary for them.
They weren't trying to make a fashion statement. They just needed something that worked and felt good.
But then things started to shift a bit, didn't they? It didn't just stay with those practical groups.
No, word got out. And then came the really surprising part. Celebrities.
Yeah, like major Hollywood stars.
Hmm.
Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson. Terry Hatcher was famously photographed wearing them.
Which is kind of wild to think about now. These bright, plastic-looking clogs on A-listers.
It definitely made people look twice, you know? If Jack Nicholson's wearing them, maybe they're not just weird boat shoes.
It gave them a sort of accidental, maybe ironic coolness. Or at least it lowered the barrier for other people to try them. It sparked curiosity.
Definitely broadened the appeal beyond just, necessity.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing from there, was it? To keep the boat metaphor going.
Ha! Nice one. No, definitely not. They grew incredibly fast, maybe too fast.
And they faced some serious backlash, too. That Time magazine piece.
Oh yeah, being named one of the 50 worst inventions. Ouch, that's gotta sting.
That's pretty brutal press for any brand.
Yeah.
And then came the 2008 financial crisis.
Which hit them hard. They had expanded a lot, maybe overextended themselves, and the recession combined with the negative perception.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good mix.
They were really struggling for a while there. It raises that big question. How do you come back from that? How do you survive the jokes, the criticism, the financial pressure, and end up bigger than ever?
It's an amazing story of resilience, really, and some very smart strategic moves.
Absolutely. They didn't just ignore the problems, they adapted.
So let's talk about those turning points. Obviously, the Crosslight material itself is foundational. That comfort.
Never underestimate the power of comfort.
And then that marketing campaign, Ugly Can Be Beautiful, launched back in 2005. Talk about leaning in.
That was bold. Just owning the criticism, turning it into a kind of badge of honor.
Right.
Clever.
And then, what I think was just genius, Jibbitz, acquiring that company in 2006.
Oh, Jibbitz were a game changer. Those little charms you stick in the holes.
Yeah. Suddenly the shoe wasn't just a shoe, it was a canvas. You could personalize it, make it your own.
It tapped right into that desire for self-expression, especially for younger demographics.
Yeah.
Mass-produced item, but you make it unique.
Brilliant.
So you had the IPO in 2006, huge growth until 2007, then the crash we mentioned.
A real roller coaster. But the comeback, starting around, 2014, that was driven by some key shifts.
New leadership came in, right? And they refocused back to basics.
Exactly. Focus on the core product, the clog, thing that made them famous. And really embrace digital marketing. Connecting directly with consumers online, telling their story differently.
And then sort of bubbling up in the background, you had this cultural shift, this ugly chic movement.
Right. Suddenly, things that were considered deliberately unfashionable became fashionable. High fashion, even.
Remember Christopher Kane in 2016 sending Crocs down the runway covered in, like, crystals?
Mind-blowing at the time. And then Balenciaga with those massive platform Crocs.
It was this moment where high fashion suddenly said, okay, maybe these aren't so bad. Maybe they're actually cool.
It gave them a whole new kind of validation, didn't it? Cultural cred.
Definitely. It made the irony intentional. It became a statement.
And alongside that, or maybe fueled by it, the celebrity collaborations just exploded.
Oh man, the collab's been huge. Post Malone was one of the first big ones, right? Sold out instantly.
Instantly. Then KFC fried chicken Crocs, Justin Bieber, Bad Bunny, Diplo.
Bad Bunny's glow-in-the-dark ones were massive. Even Barbie.
These weren't just endorsements. They were creating hype, scarcity, turning Crocs into collector's items almost.
Tapping right into snooker culture, drop culture. Really smart. It brought in a whole new, younger audience that saw them as, like, desirable fashion items.
And then 2020 happened, the pandemic.
Ah, yes. The great accelerator of comfort.
Suddenly, everyone's working from home. Comfort is king. And what's sitting there? Ready.
The humble Croc. Easy, comfortable, perfect for shuffling from the kitchen to the Zoom call.
Sales went through the roof. It was the perfect shoe for that moment.
It really cemented their comeback. It aligned perfectly with that massive shift towards comfort-first dressing.
And their marketing around them, the Come As You Are campaign.
Yeah, that really hit the mark too. Embracing individuality, self-acceptance. It felt very timely.
Plus, they kept expanding globally, and then they bought Hey Dude in 2022.
Right, diversifying their portfolio a bit, but still in that comfort footwear space, showing they're not just about the clog anymore.
And they're talking more about sustainability now, too, developing bio-based Crosslight.
Which is increasingly important, right? Consumers, especially younger ones, care about the environmental impact. It shows they're looking ahead.
So when you pull it all together, why did this work? How did this, let's face it, objectively strange-looking shoe conquer the world?
Well, comfort is the baseline. You have to start there. It's just fundamentally comfortable.
Undeniably. But it's more than that.
Oh, for sure. I think the polarization was actually a strength. They weren't bland. People had strong feelings. And that creates buzz. It creates tribes.
Like an if you know kind of thing, wearing Crocs becomes a signal.
Exactly. And they embraced the ugly thing, which disarmed the critics and created this sort of in-joke community.
And what about nostalgia? For Gen Z, maybe they wore them as little kids.
Huge factor. That rediscovery of something from your childhood, but seeing it in a new, maybe ironic, maybe genuinely cool light, that's powerful marketing right there.
Taps into those positive memories.
Definitely. Comfort, polarization, nostalgia, smart marketing, even smarter collaborations. It's a potent mix.
Of course, you still have the haters, fashion purists who just cannot.
Oh, absolutely. There'll likely never be won over. And there's always the question with trends this big, how long can it last? Is it sustainable?
That's the big question, isn't it? Can they keep the momentum? They've defied expectations so many times already, though.
They have. And they've got ambitious plans, aiming for, what was it, $5 billion in revenue by 2026?
Yeah, focusing heavily on digital sales, continuing the collabs, pushing the sustainability angle with new materials.
They seem aware they need to keep innovating, keep finding ways to stay relevant in a really fickle market.
So it really is just an incredible story. From that boat trip, that shoe that people laughed at.
That Onion supposedly cried over.
Oh, right. To this global symbol of, well, comfort, sure, but also individuality, resilience, maybe even a kind of anti-fashion fashion.
It's proof that you don't need conventional beauty to succeed. Sometimes being different, even being ugly, can be your greatest asset if you know how to play it.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What other ideas out there, things that seem unconventional or maybe even a bit weird right now?
What other ugly ducklings are waiting for their moment?
Exactly. What's the next Crocs? Something to definitely mull over.